What is going on? Brandon back with another episode of the CRE Hustle. We have Larry Gilbert here. He has been a broker for about 25 years now, right?
Yes.
With
Yes.
Klein Heuchan here in Clearwater, Florida. So Larry, great to have you on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Just kind of give a brief overview of who you are there.
So my name is Larry Gilbert. I've been with Klein Heuchan for 25 years now. Started in 1995. Prior to that, I was actually an electrician for 18 years outside of Philadelphia. And came down here in 94, made the switch over, and started doing a lot of door knocking, like a lot of young guys do.
Yeah.
I think Mark Klein, who's the founder, this company started in 1983.
Okay.
And so I met Mark and Buzz Heuchan, and they said they saw something. I think maybe their glasses were dirty, but they hired me anyway.
Yeah.
And so, the journey began,
Yeah.
trying to get my feet wet and figure out where exactly I was going to go with everything. And so that kind of started me on my path. Klein Heuchan we're a small local boutique real estate firm here in Clearwater, like I said, established in 1983. We usually have about 15 agents in here, 15 to 18 at any given time.
Yeah.
And we do about $75 million a year average in revenue. So we're not huge like the big nationals, but for the local independent, Clearwater is our backyard.
Yep.
So we specialize in this Clearwater, Tampa Bay market.
And what got you into commercial real estate from the electric business?
Well, I think it was always intriguing. When I was an electrician, I was working in commercial buildings, and I would see what was going on behind the scenes because you were there early on.
Right.
And so it just kind of intrigued me, and I had a natural aptitude for this business, and I kind of migrated over. So after I got down here, I wanted to switch careers. I knew there was something else, so I went back to school, went to St. Pete College, and I got in at Klein Heuchan, and I found out that there was this vast world that was out there,
Right.
that was exposed, and this business is dynamic, but I think you can overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
I tried to keep everything simple. It's just one day at a time, one door at a time, knocking on doors, learning how Mark and Buzz would teach me. They taught me the business. I remember this is my great story about Buzz Heuchan. I was telling us I would come into work every day, and I would get here at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I was so excited. I had a deal, and I'd write it up. And I'd come in, I'd say, Buzz, can you take a look at this? And he was always here before me, no matter what. He goes, sure. So he would come in, and he would sit there, and he would open his drawer, and he would take out that red pen and all my notes, everything. I had to go back and rewrite everything. And so one day I came in, and I said, Buzz, for the love of God, please don't get that red pen out. He goes, okay, Larry. He opens up the drawer, he takes out a green pen, all through my notes. And so that was kind of how you learned in this business, because some of the bigger res firms or some of the larger commercial firms, maybe they have learning class, they have classes to teach you, but here it was truly kind of like on the job training.
Right.
And so that was it, and I started farming the North Pinellas area in Oldsmar, and my kids went to elementary school there, and middle school and high school, and I was in the Rotary and the Chamber, and I coached 16 baseball teams and started getting involved.
Right.
And that was kind of how I got involved and made the migration over and started building my second career in commercial real estate.
And how important do you think it is for someone maybe getting into commercial real estate to really focused and farm an area versus just trying to be everywhere?
Well, I think that you have to have a focus. So your focus is either going to be one of the disciplines. You can do development work, you could do office, you could do retail, you could do industrial. But I think the most important thing you could do is you focus on an area called, you farm a specific geographical area. At least that's the way, that's my thought processes. And again, get involved in the community, join the chamber, join the Rotary, start getting involved in the networking groups that are there, meeting all the people. And before long, you become the expert in that area, and people will generally migrate to you when you become the expert, and they have questions. Right. And in this is a business where you have to think of the customer first. You have to put them first. If you take care of your clients, you take care of your customers, you'll be well compensated and well rewarded, for your hard work. Right. But you truly, anybody can, and I don't want to use the word extort, but anybody can try to, I guess, earn a commission one way or Yeah. But the idea is to early on to have the good habits of farming and being a relationship, long-term oriented broker. And I think that's what leads to your success.
Excellent. Yeah, so going into the second one there, so how do you see commercial real estate changing there? And you can mix it in with technology or whatever.
So I have notes about that, and I'll give you an idea. Is that technology changes everything, because people now will go online and they can call you up and say, hey, I was on XYZ website, and can you send me over, can you send me the flyer on that property? I want to take a look at it. Right. So you'll go ahead and send that over because the information's there. You have to make sure you get the technology, all the information to somebody. And you have to return phone calls and emails as fast as possible, because it's important. It shows that you're engaged with somebody, because they don't know who's on the other side of the keyboard. Yeah. So you have to get that information to them. But at the same time, as much as technology has changed, they still need somebody with boots on the ground. They need a local expert, somebody that's following the market, that understands the trends, that understands cap rates, that understands that maybe this, for instance, take the Sears over at Countryside Mall. So Sears goes out of business there, and all of a sudden they reposition it and they make it a Whole Foods market. Right. A supermarket. You'd have never put a supermarket in a mall 25 years ago. Yeah. But now, because of the way it's changed, because of the way people's shopping habits have changed, the migration patterns, all of a sudden that makes great sense to do that. And so with technology, as much as I don't want to say it's a ball and chain, because this is a 24/7 business now, you also need somebody that has a understanding of the local market.
Yeah, and I mean, you kind of brought up a good point too in the beginning. I want to ask you on real quick, and that is, I mean, you've been really responsive, whether I send you a text or email or LinkedIn or whatever it is. But I think it brings up a good question, because I think nowadays everyone's so inundated, right? I mean, before it used to just be maybe like one or two conversational sources. Now it seems like there's so many different ways to communicate with someone. How do you kind of balance that out where, and I think obviously to be successful, you have to be responsive and get back to people. But how do you know when to kind of cut that off, right? I mean, if you're like, I want to work out this morning and,
Well, usually my wife tells me. But, short of that, I think that you have to have a balance in your life. And so the balance in my life is my wife and our children and our grandchildren. We've got some dogs, so we I try to be able to turn it off so that I can pay attention. If I know that I've got my grandchildren, I may respond and say, hey, I'll get you that information. I'm out with my family. Got the grandkids. Let me get back to you in a couple hours. I'll send that to you. Right. I try to acknowledge so that people don't feel like they're just being put aside or blown off. but I want to be able to go ahead and do that. I serve in the Coast Guard Auxiliary, so I do surface operations and do a lot of training. And so, sometimes I may have to leave the office early, or I go on weekends. And so, I'll just try to do as much as I can before, and then respond when I get done. Because I think it's very important to, be able to give back to your country and your community.
Yeah.
And so it's one of the things that's drawn me to that. And then, when you talk about working out, so I'm a gym rat, and usually, I've got a routine where I go at the end of the day, and then I'll go the next morning, then the next night, then the next morning, and so. But again, technology, I think if used the right way, you can respond to a text message or an email to acknowledge and say, "Hey, Brandon, I got your email. I'll get back to you. I'll get back that information back to you shortly."
Right.
Acknowledging it, and just to acknowledge the person, because I can't tell you how many times I'll get a message, and I'll call somebody back, and they'll say, "Wow, I can't believe you called back. You're like the fifth person I called. I haven't heard from anybody." So, I think you need to turn your phone off at times. You need to disconnect. I think that's so important to disconnect. And you also have to understand, I think people also understand that there are boundaries. You can't text somebody at 10:30 at night,
and expect a response.
Right. I mean, it's not fair. Not everybody works in those hours, and so a lot of times if something comes in, and I may leave that till the next day. Right. But I try to be as responsive as I can and respectful as possible, because as you and I discussed earlier, sometimes when you're doing a commercial real estate purchase, this may be the largest purchase that somebody makes in their life, and they're going to be nervous, and rightly so.
Yeah.
And they're looking at you saying, "Hey, you're the expert here. I'm nervous, and you need to talk me off the ledge." Yeah. So, you kind of have to understand that, when you're going into it.
Right.
So.
Excellent. And how else do you see technology changing the CRE landscape, as far as, what are some strategies and stuff that you see landlords doing, or even you bringing to the table, as far as repurposing it and whatnot? What trends have you seen there?
I'll tell you that one of the things that I do with technology is I do a lot of social media. So I've created a social media platform. And I'm engaged with other people that are in the community with me. In fact, I made a note. So one of the guys is Barry Wolf Barry's with Marcus and Millichap.
Okay.
So Barry was asking about cap rates. What do you see? Where do you see it? In general, from the people on his page. Yeah. So I responded to what I'm seeing for the things. We just sold a property, 7.7 cap. For local mom and pop tenants, which I think was pretty strong.
Yeah.
And so he said, if you share the information with me, he said, give me your email and I'll send you a report. Barry just sent me a report. I haven't even opened it yet, but it's a 12-month report including Standard & Poor's ratings. On where he sees the different segments. It's put out by their company. Yeah. Well, that's information that I'm going to have now that I can share. Right. Yesterday we had a lunch with FigCard. So I'm the incoming president for the Florida Gulf Coast Commercial Association of Realtors for 2020. We have, we have about 560 members. About 500 or so are real estate practitioners. Whether they're primary members or secondary, and that's just a matter of where you pay your dues to, the primary and secondary.
Yeah.
So, but we have, and so what happens is that enables the brokers to work with alliance members, non-brokers, so we can kind of pool our resources together. So now you know who to go to for lending. Now you know who to go to for your architecturals, engineerings, environmental surveys, title. Your title, all those different things, so you have these relationships. Yeah. So we had a luncheon yesterday, and while a lot of this stuff comes online and you can get all these different things, what happens is that now you actually get it firsthand. You know, when people join our organization and they come to either a pitch session, we have 5 pitch sessions a month. We have a luncheon every month, an educational seminar following that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get to take the technology side of it, but then you get to put a face on it. So now, maybe these people that are really heavy hitters, and you hear about them, now you get to like sit there and listen to them, ask them questions, and then shake hands. I was talking to a girl yesterday from CRE, talking about she has some stuff in downtown Tampa, and she was saying that the parking ratio makes it really difficult. So I was telling her about a project I'm doing down on West Bay Drive, West Bay Lofts. It's the new mixed-use project that you see, but it has a 470-car automated parking garage. So it would be the first automated parking garage that's going to for general public use in Pinellas County, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to her about that, asking her, hey, you know, what do you think about this? And yeah, because you know she's doing strictly office, and she's saying that's a problem she's having. So I brought that to her and asked her, what do you think of this idea, you know, that we're looking at? And of course, you know, it was a great conversation. But with technology and being able to use it, so now I can take that information, put it online, and I can tout this project, 40,000 square feet of boutique, you know, retail and office, with a 470-car automated parking garage. You know?
Right.
And so, you know, exactly,
Yep.
you get people's attention. And I wanted to kind of test the room to see what these other experts thought about the idea that we have, that our developer came up with to handle the parking situation. So one of the things we've done is we've been able to do our marketing campaign through LinkedIn, through our Facebook page, through Catalyst is the broker-to-broker emails that we do, our marketing flyers, and put all that stuff online, get it out to everybody.
Yep.
But again, at the end of the day, you know, hopefully they're going to call me and I can meet with them. And I always joke, I joked before, I told you, I'm a dinosaur, you know, because while everyone's using technology, you know, I'm still a dinosaur. I want to shake your hand. I want to look you in the eye. I want to be able to sit down with you face to face and talk about how I can help you with the project. You know, what kind of space do you need? How do you want it configured? You know, tell me the hot points of what it is you need, and let me tell you what we can do, you know, to help you with the type of product that you need. So that's kind of a mix, I think. And I'm not sure if that's the right answer, but it's kind of a mix in between the use of technology, but also, you know, kind of old school real estate that I think still holds true today, which is, you know, shaking hands and looking somebody in the eye and trying to build that long-term relationship and get a comfort level on both sides. You know, because you can be working with somebody on the other side and you want to have a comfort level that all the energy and effort that you're putting in for them, that they respect your time as much as you respect theirs, and you have a good symbiotic relationship.
Right. Yeah, no, and I mean, that brings up a really good point as well with technologies. I think from the residential side, right, everyone thinks that Zillow is going to take over residential, and I've kind of asked the question about technology in the commercial real estate space, as far as another technology coming out like Zillow that would disrupt commercial. But I think you bring up a good point, is yes, you have residential homes, and of course you can spend millions of dollars on those, but the average person isn't necessarily spending that much, versus commercial, which you brought up, is a huge purchase. Whether you're purchasing it or even leasing it, there's a lot of money on the line. And I think having that relationship with whoever you're working with is key, versus, you know, just typing and filling in a couple boxes to sign a lease or whatever it is.
Well, I know, for instance, when my son was looking for an apartment, and I was running around with him, we were looking at a couple things, and so I thought it was interesting is that you registered online, and then they gave you a code that was good for 30 minutes, and then you would punch it in, and it would unlock a lockbox, and then you could go in and you could access the apartment yourself. and then the application was online and everything. And I thought, this is really cool, except what's to sell? You know, no one's selling. It's just like, take this or leave it. We don't care. With commercial, it's so much different because, you know, it's not necessarily, it's about the bricks and mortar, but it's about functionality as well. It's about the floor plan, the layout. How do you see your business? You know, it used to be in the old days, it was just office, 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 office. And now you have offices, then you have bullpens, and then you have to have workflow, and you have to have storage space. You know, so you have to have a parking ratio, and you have to have some visibility or some signage. How are people going to find you? And that's regardless of whether you're office or whether you're industrial or whether you're retail. Some retailers have a very specific need. They need a roll-up door in the back of their space. They need some storage built for the first 20, 30, 40 feet of their space. Then they need some offices. Right. You know, because maybe they're going to meet people and do some kind of contracts and agreements. And then they need showroom and display. Yeah. You know, so it's not just a vanilla box. You have to have somebody that understands the nuances, that can say, hey, listen, here's a vanilla shell for you. And let's work through what you need. Right. And, you know, you have to understand the nuances of the business to be able to work through that to help them. Right. And so no technology in this business is going to replace the real estate professional, the salesperson, the broker that has the understanding. You know, if you're just walking in and you just want to look at office, anybody can do that if that's what they think. But even people that I've met that are very in tune with technology, at the end of the day, they're wow, I'm really glad I came to meet with you because I didn't think of this or I didn't think of that. Right. You know, the technology is not going to tell you where your work pool is. It's not going to tell you, you know, where's the bus stop, because I get a lot of people that come see me to take the bus. It's not going to tell me, you know, this is the best space in order for my pool of employees that are going to do this specific type of job that I need. Yeah. You know, and so that's what we bring to the table that you're not going to get from technology. Right. But technology is a great thing, because for a local company like Klein Heuchan, what technology does is that lets me compete with the big boys. Yeah. You know, because now somebody from out of town, you know, they can get online, they can look at it, and they no longer do they need to just consider using the big houses for their work. They can use a boutique firm like ours, and we can do the same thing because of technology. So there are advantages. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And that brings up another point, is you have all these big firms out there, the CBREs and the Cushmans and all of them. And then you have the boutique person, you have the individuals. And it almost seems like, you know, technology is having that even playing field now, to where it's not even necessarily, yes, some of those bigger companies may have more technology and resources and tools, but I think it's so much of the individual and working with them versus, I mean, it's like you always buy the individual first and not the actual firm.
Right.
Can you touch on that?
Well, I agree. I agree. And, you know, you're only as good as your weakest link. Yeah. You know, so when you're doing a project, whether you're looking at multiple locations or whether you're looking at your very first, whether it's going to be a retail store, service, an office, you know, you have to have somebody that's been around that understands the nuances of the business and can help you put a deal together, from negotiating to deal, from doing their due diligence to getting it closed. A lot of times what we do is, well, we'll help people. So I'll give you a couple examples. So I have some of the companies I work with, they want to be an investor. So they want to make money on the investment side. They want to buy this as an investment. But the other hat is, hey, I own this company and I sell XYZ. And so what we do is we help them with, obviously speaking with their accountants and their attorneys, but we help them put together a holding company and then they go ahead and they buy the property in a holding company, but then they, in the other hand, they lease it to their company.
Yeah.
So now their company is one part of the equation. Their holding company is the other part. So now they're going to pay rent no matter where they go, the company. You're going to pay rent. So they're paying rent to themselves, essentially. Mm-hmm. And so they're able to go ahead and pay. Their company will pay down the debt service. They'll go ahead and own the building separately. So now, for instance, you can go ahead, if you're a doctor or a dentist, and you buy it on XYZ Holding Company, and then you have ABC Dental is renting, which they also own, is renting from their XYZ Holding Company.
Yep.
So what will happen is they can go ahead and in 20 years, they could sell their dental practice. They can keep the asset. Mm-hmm. And they can sell that dental practice to someone else who will then go ahead and pay rent for hopefully another 10 or 20 years.
Yeah.
And if the industry changes, or say that market changes, then dentists are migrating to a different part of town. Mm-hmm. Kind of like when the hospital closed up in Pasco and they built the new hospital. So now you take that building and you reposition it. So maybe now it's not going to be dental, but you can renovate it and you can go ahead, maybe make it a general office, maybe make it a service building. Yeah. So there's a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, you still own that asset. And that's one of the things that we've done to help them.
Yeah.
Another thing that we've done is we have gone ahead and say about a fairly large building, and you're doing a tenant improvements. And so maybe inside the deal you'll have $10 or $20 a square foot for tenant improvements. But the tenant's needs are more than that. So maybe you put another $45 a square foot that you give to the tenant, and what they do is they can sign a personal note on that additional tenant improvement that will burn off over maybe 3 years or 5 years or 7 years. And you can do that at a competitive interest rate. So now as a landlord, you've gone ahead and you've put a quality tenant in that's going to pay market rent and get market tenant improvements inside the lease. And then outside the lease is a second payment where you've gone ahead and essentially loaned them maybe $100,000 or $200,000 or $300,000. They're going to pay that back over a 5-year period. So what happens is that for the owner of the property that lent that money, they're paying taxes on the interest only. That comes back to them. So maybe they have an 8% interest on that money. So they're not, because that's not all income.
Right.
Only the 8% is income. So tell me where you can go to get 8%, right? Yeah. So that's a pretty good return. Right. For the tenant, the benefit is that their base rate, just hypothetically, say the base rate was $15 a foot and it increased 3% a year. So now in 5 years, they're only renewing a lease at whatever that 15% was plus 3%, compounded every year. They're not paying it on that rate plus the tenant improvement rate. Right. Because that tenant improvement, if you amortize it out, maybe it was $8 a foot. So they're not renewing their lease at $23 a foot. All right. So plus, on top of that, they're not paying tax on the note. They're paying tax in the state of Florida. You're paying tax, Pinellas County, 6.7%. They're paying tax on the base rent, but they're not paying tax on the note because the note is a repayment. And so that's something that we bring to the table, and you don't get that from technology.
Right.